I'm Myriam.
And I'm Elyse. Two friends bound by the love of books.
Taking on the world one chapter at a time. This is the Book Bound Besties podcast. Hey, Book Bound Besties! Welcome to episode 4 of season 1 of Book Bound Besties podcast.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about Fourth Wing chapters 10, 11, and 12.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into it.
Yes. Starting with chapter 10, I'll read the synopsis. Violet's squad is faced with their first gauntlet practice. This serious obstacle course stands in their way of if they ever want to make it as a rider. The cadets try to encourage each other through the daunting task. Nearing the end, one of them falls, and Violet feels for the first time what it's like to lose a squad mate. As she grapples with the loss and grief, she runs into Xaden. He once again doesn't try to hurt her, but instead gives her advice.
Very good. Mm-hmm. Very good. So before we begin, let's talk a little bit about the pre-chapter blurb. Mm-hmm. So here we get an excerpt from the Book of Brennan. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'll read it.
Oh, sure.
So before we begin, let's talk a little bit about the pre-chapter blurb. Mm-hmm. And the pre-chapter blurb for chapter 10 is the following. Don't underestimate the challenge of the gauntlet, Mira. It's designed to test your balance, strength, and agility. The times don't matter for shit. Only that you make it to the top. Reach for the ropes when you have to. Coming in last is better than coming in dead. And this is from the Book of Brennan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after reading that little pre-chapter thing, first of all, okay, so the word gauntlet, obviously it's a medieval armor thing, which I know doing costumes and stuff. But also, I've always heard the expression like running the gauntlet.
Or throwing down the gauntlet. Is that an expression?
Oh, maybe, but throwing down your gloves, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because I speak.
But I've always heard running the gauntlet.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Doing something that is like pushing through something that's intimidating or something.
Oh,
or like,
okay, cool.
Like, but I looked up what the definition of a gauntlet is because I was like, why is it called a gauntlet? Anyway, so the actual like proper definition is undergo military punishment of receiving blows while running between two rows of men with sticks.
What?
Yeah, so it was an old military like punishment. So I guess if you did something bad or whatever, like your squad mates would like hit you and stuff. And then I was like, oh, okay, like I get it's an obstacle course.
Yeah.
And
that's like meant to batter you?
Yeah, almost like, batter you.
Okay.
So, anyway, I just thought it was interesting because I was like, hey, what is a gauntlet? Like,
so that's how Lee's mind works. Mine is like, oh, this is basically like American Ninja Warrior.
I wrote that down too.
Okay, so you're like a little bit about that.
No, but I did write. The whole time I was reading it, all I was picturing was Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
And like everything about it. Even the Lask. Why can't I speak on this podcast? Even the last trial of the gauntlet is exactly like a Ninja Warrior. It's the same thing.
Oh, the throwing
the wall.
Yeah.
Like the wall you have to run up. And it's the same thing. I'm like, it's literally the game.
True. Yeah.
Or my mind also went to Wipeout, which is like the funny version of Ninja Warrior.
Oh, I've never watched it.
So it's basically the same thing, but it's all like inflatables and the course is designed to knock you off it.
Oh.
So it's just like Wipeout.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense.
Anyway.
What I'd written was that right off the bat, you find out that the gauntlet is like American Ninja Warrior, but basically on steroids. And instead of falling into a pool of water, you fall to your death.
Yeah.
Like that's basically
like everything in this school.
I know.
It's always about death, these people.
But we also get a glimpse into the lives pre-Basgiath of the cadets who wanted to be riders. So Orly was trained by her father, who was also a rider, which is interesting because it more thoroughly illustrates how ill-prepared Violet was.
Yeah.
Because this girl has been doing gauntlet-style obstacle courses her whole life.
Yeah, for sure. I also found it interesting that she specifically says, like, I have been waiting for years to do this.
Yeah, she's excited.
She's excited to potentially climb to her death. Like, and it just reinforces, like, how being a dragon rider is so important in the society, and it's such an honor, and it's like one that very few people are able to accomplish, and if you do, it's like gold, you know? So like her parents trained her for this.
Well, that's the thing also that I found really interesting is Orly is almost like a legacy because her dad not only is a rider, but is still alive as a rider, which as we know is relatively rare because the reason they let riders marry earlier is because their life expectancy is so short. So she almost comes from an even more elite family because her dad is still alive. But Orly also provides some insight as to what being stationed on the southern wing is like.
Okay.
So we could park it later, but for now, we know that the Crovlin border is super chill.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even register that.
Yeah, I mean...
I was like, words I don't know.
Well, you know, because we learn about a few of the border towns and stuff like that. So it's just, you know, maybe important for later.
Oh, okay. Maybe. Okay. I'll pay more attention. But yeah, Violet is also a legacy, though.
She is.
And has surviving rider family members and stuff, but they didn't prepare her in the same way. So it's just...
Which is just the conversation we keep having about why the heck is she there?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I can't wait to find out.
But will you ever? I don't know.
And then, and then Violet, like I think we see her like kind of doubting herself, but there's still that like little voice inside her head.
I took note of that too.
I'm gonna do it. I could do this. And I think that little voice is getting louder and stronger as we go on in the book. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's super important. And I especially like, you know how when you have a baby and the baby is crying and crying and crying, but you're like, the baby needs to learn how to self-soothe.
Oh, yeah.
I know this is a really weird comparison, but I just feel like she is starting to self-soothe by self-encouraging herself because she doesn't have anyone else really. I mean, she's got Xaden, she's got Rhiannon who believe in her and Professor Devara. Yeah. But like for the most part, a lot of people don't have a lot of confidence in her ability to succeed here. Yeah. So the fact that that little voice is growing louder, I think is really important.
Oh, for sure. Because if she doesn't believe in herself, like she ain't going to cut it. Yeah. Like that you cannot survive this.
Well, that's kind of what Xaden had said to that first year under the tree.
Of like, I won't even bother to help you if you don't believe in yourself, which ruthless, but also kind of warranted. Like I get where he was coming from.
He's kind of protecting himself and his
that too.
Bandwidth and stuff.
That too.
So Tynan, the squad, her squad mate.
Okay, I read it as Tynan.
Oh, you might be right. I don't know. I should listen to the audiobook.
Oh, yeah, because they would pronounce it properly.
Yeah, I downloaded the graphic audio part 1.
Okay.
So I should take a listen for for educational purposes, obviously.
So Tynan.
Tynan Tynan. Tynan Tynan taunts. This is how we're gonna refer to him from now on. Tynan Tynan.
I love it. There you go.
Okay, Tynan Tynan taunts Violet. That's a tongue twister. Okay, he taunts Violet about the purpose of the gauntlet being to weed out the weaklings. And Riddick shows his little like spicy side by calling him out and cussing him out.
Yeah.
And I sense a deeper friendship in the future for Violet and Riddick, and I'm here for it. I love it.
I love it.
She's getting more people to be in her corner, and I think that's really important, and I think that's, just great.
Yeah, I enjoyed, like, everything Riddick said in the next, like, 3 chapters even. Like, it's just, like, his
character is developing.
Exactly, and everything he said, I'm just like, yes, I'm here for it. I like him. It's great.
He's saying what we're all thinking.
Yeah.
So here, again... Rebecca Yarros is super clever with the way that she provides us readers with more context about the gauntlet itself. So we learn that the squads are judged by their combined times, but that the timing doesn't really matter all that much because Sawyer, who's this repeat first year, says that the last cadet to walk during presentation last year bonded and some cadets from the first squad didn't. Yeah. So basically the timing of the squads determines their order in the presentation, but it doesn't determine whether there's going to be a bonding or not. Yeah. So it kind of lends itself to thinking like either there's a kind of a predestined bonding or there's some sort of vibe between the dragon and their rider that regardless of the timing, if a dragon is going to bond with you, they're going to bond with you.
Yeah.
Whether they see 2 people before you or they see 100 people before you.
Well, I think it needs to be this special connection. Like we don't, I guess, know that much about bonds, but it, to me, I would assume is like this really deep thing. You're in each other's heads constantly.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be something very real and true. Like they're not just going to bond with anybody, even if you're a good fighter, even if you're a good warrior, or good at running the gauntlet or whatever. Like it doesn't matter. I think at the core of it is like they need to have something special with you as a person.
Yeah,
so.
I completely agree.
Yeah, that is interesting. I like having the second year. What's his name? The one who didn't bond.
Sawyer?
Yeah, I like having Sawyer. I like having that insight of like what he kind of knows what's going to go on, and he's like, okay, this is what's going to go down, and he kind of could help support them through every step. Yeah. So I kind of liked having that perspective thus far.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it's funny because even having his perspective, and he's so good at everything, that kind of gnaws at Violet, 'cause she's like, this guy's doing everything right. How come he didn't bond? Yeah. What will that mean for me?
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
So I think it's a double-edged sword.
That's true. That's true. They also mentioned that their squad is the only squad to remain intact up until this point.
Which obviously means it will no longer be intact.
I know, but I was also like surprised. I'm like, why? Like, why? What have they done that other squads haven't? Like, is it because like are they more supportive with each other? It just made me kind of wonder the dynamics of like why. Or is it just so Rebecca Yarros could break our hearts in a few moments?
I think that's it. I think that's it. Honestly, I think that's it. It's just to make the stakes higher.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting. But then it's also really sad how many people, like that means so many people have died already.
Yeah. So I know we've been shitting on Dane a bunch. Mm-hmm. And we can't forget about Jack Barlow. Our favorite caca face, as I like to call him. But we have a new punching bag, and it's Teen and Tynan. Because this guy is such a jerk.
Yeah, he's awful.
Yeah, I think Violet handled the situation where he accused her of sleeping with Dane really well, and I love that her friends kind of jumped in and supported her and kind of put him in his place.
But she, when all that happens, yes, I 100% agree. And sorry for cutting you off.
That's
but
okay.
She, like, wonders if Dane would cross that line.
Well, doesn't she say something about how if she's going to be accused of it, she'd rather have the perks?
Oh, absolutely. But she also does say something about, like, would he do that? Would he cross that line? Like, because he's such a stickler for rules.
Yeah, but he broke the rules with Amber Mavis.
She doesn't know. Not for sure.
Well, yeah, I guess not for sure.
But that's what I mean. Is like, she's like, oh, would he do that? With, like, still not realizing who Amber Mavis is. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, but Teen and Tynan's response when he realizes how wrong he is about the fact that Violet and Dane are not sleeping together is so dumb. It's like, oh, but Jack Barlow told me. It's like,
yeah, like, grow up.
You're so dumb.
Grow up. Like, you're gonna run with Jack Barlow. That is your choice. Like, come on.
I know.
But
after this kind of conversation, we see the first seeds of Violet's infatuation with Xaden taking shape. Past just appreciating how he looks, because she starts comparing him to Dane. So she says, or she thinks, Dane would more than take exception with Teen and Tynan's assumptions and probably assign him cleanup duty for a month. Good thing he's on the flight field this time of day. Xaden would just beat the shit out of him.
Yep.
And I'm not like a violent person, but I'm here for the Xaden beating the shit out of Teen and Tynan.
There are certain things, that we accept in fantasy books. I know. I know. We see her finally. Well, I think she did compare them previously.
Did she?
Yeah, I think there was like a brief moment because I had made a note about it. But yeah, she's comparing them, and I'm already a Xaden fan. But like the two comparisons, I'm like, no, I want to see Dane.
Yeah, because it's almost emasculating Dane by his love of the rules and his just general
I guess, in a way,
behavior. And it elevates Xaden's masculinity, which I know is like toxic masculinity and whatever. But like, again,
that's what I mean by like,
we accept these things in a fantasy book. I don't need to have a perfect male main character.
Oh, God, no. If they were perfect, the story would be so boring.
Although Cassian is pretty perfect.
Cassian's perfect?
Cassian's pretty perfect.
Interesting. Okay.
Just wait till Silver Flames.
I'm excited to read more. Okay. I told you how much I love Cassian. Like, I would put Cassian almost in line with Rhys. Like, that is how much I love Cassian, and I haven't even read his book yet. So
I know, but this is why I really love Hundathalar from Crescent City, because in my opinion, I think he is the perfect mix of Cassian and Rhys.
I'm very excited to meet him too then.
Yeah. We'll get there eventually.
I know I have so much reading to do. Oh, yeah. Anyway.
So here we have Professor Emetario. Professor Emetario.
Okay.
Got to say that a few times to get it to roll off the tongue. Professor Emetario, who's also the professor who oversees the sparring, in case you are having trouble keeping track of
Thank you.
Who teaches who.
Of course.
Or who teaches what.
I am.
Again, third time reading this book. Yeah. So Professor Emetario tells us what the purpose of the gauntlet is, other than weeding out the weaklings. So every one of the 5 ascents. So the gauntlet is made up of 5 levels, 5 ascents. So every one of the 5 ascents on this course is designed to mimic the challenges you'll face in battle. From the balance you must keep on the back of your dragon, to the strength you'll need to hold your seat during maneuvers, to the stamina you'll need to fight on the ground, then still be able to mount your dragon at a second's notice. So it's not just a torture device. There's a purpose.
I get it, but I also had trouble taking it seriously. I'm like, no, it's just an obstacle course. Like, I get where they're trying to give importance to it, but it still felt silly to me. Like, the whole thing feels silly to me. The whole obstacle course, and partially because I kept picturing of like Ninja Warrior and stuff, but I'm just like, no, it's just a game. Like, I get it, but no.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to say this without spoiling.
Okay, well then don't say anything.
Like,
anyway, I just couldn't take it as seriously.
Yeah. I guess because I've read scenes later on in this book and in the sequel that highlight specific skills that are highlighted or that are mimicked in the gauntlet, I can see how this would
help them.
Yes.
Okay. I think because the way, I guess, from where I'm sitting is all the stuff could definitely demonstrate the strength you need and the stamina you need, but the action of running up a wall will never be the same as the action as mounting a dragon. Like, that doesn't make sense to my brain.
Maybe it's because you're not picturing the dragons properly. Maybe you're picturing them as dragon tails again.
You were picturing them as dragon tails. No, I'm picturing them huge. But
how do you think they mount? Okay, so
you climb the leg.
What do they climb? Okay.
You climb the leg, you get on their hip or whatever, and you get onto their back.
Okay, and what position do you think their leg is?
I just did a really silly action. Like sitting.
But they're standing.
Okay, but a leg, a scaly leg, or a reptilian textured leg, has bends and curves and stuff. It doesn't compare to a
But these dragons are 25 feet tall.
I agree with the height, but a wood wall that curves upwards that you have to run up and catch isn't the same.
Give us a few chapters.
Touch it and feel, and it doesn't seem the same to me at all.
Give us a few chapters.
Wood.
And yes.
It's not squishy. There's no scales. There's no texture.
Okay, but how would you feel if someone used your nooks and crannies to climb up your body?
I would feel very uncomfortable. Well, there you go. No, but it's a leg.
But the whole idea is for them to be able to jump as far up so that they're not making use of the nooks and crannies as much as I don't know.
Okay. Anyway,
there's a logic. You're gonna just trust me on this, okay?
Okay. Oh man, your nooks and crannies. Well then.
I mean, how else would you say it?
I love it.
Okay, good.
Anyway, okay, so then we start the thing, we start the gauntlet.
Yeah, before we start the gauntlet, we're introduced to a new quiet member of the squad, Trina.
Yeah.
So basically, we know Sawyer, we know Rhiannon, we know Riddick, we know Teen and Tynan, and we know Violet.
Yeah.
But there's more members of this squad. So we're introduced to a couple others in this scene. And Trina is the quietest member of their squad. And when she whispers, whoa, Violet checks in on her. And I thought that was so like, well, so sweet,
I know.
so sensitive, so compassionate. And I thought that showed a lot about her character, that maybe because she is not comfortable, but because she has been in the role of weaker person, that seeing someone else who is not traditionally big and strong, also expressing that vulnerability. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, I think it's cute. She like sticks up for her.
Exactly.
Yeah. And again, like you said, it's just another example of how kind of a person Violet is. So
yeah. So Professor Emeterio asks Sawyer to demonstrate how to go up the gauntlet. And he kills it. He does it perfectly.
Yeah.
Even Professor Emeterio says that.
Flawless.
Exactly. And now we're introduced to yet another snarky snark.
Yes.
Luca, who's a girl.
Who's a girl.
And Luca says, perfect, and yet he still was passed over at threshing. Guess the dragons have some sense of taste.
Oh. Yeah, just ew.
That's so rude, Luca.
It's so gross. Like, I hate that attitude. And I know it's like a common or seems to be a common attitude in...
Everyone is so superior.
Yeah, everyone's... they're just so full of themselves. And yeah, I know.
Though I guess you kind of have to have that sense of egotism to think that you can make it. When, I mean, how many were they to cross the parapet? I think they were, 180, 190. Yeah. They're down to 170. So I feel like more people have to have died.
Like more than that.
Yeah.
It must have been more. Anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of people died. Yeah. Yeah.
So to think that if you're going to be one of the 100 remaining.
I know. Yeah, I don't like Luca
I don't like Luca either.
So
it's okay. We know what happens to her.
Wait.
Okay.
I'm ruthless reading this book. Let's go. No. Yeah. And then also Violet says something that I felt so deeply in my soul. She looks at she looks at the ramp and says, I am too short for this.
Aww.
Because let me tell you, as someone who is 5'1" and a half, which counts for something, yeah, I think like, short people just have to go through life differently. You learn to climb things. You learn to be creative with how you get through life because, there's not always going to be a tall person around to help you. So.
Although we both married tall men.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's great when I need to reach something and Scott can reach it. But when I'm alone and have to just figure it out, like I have in like public climbed shelves to get things.
Okay.
Well, sometimes people working in stores are too busy and I don't want to wait. So I'm just going to do it myself and I will climb a shelf to get what I need.
Like where?
Like Canadian Tire or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah.
Those are sturdy shelves.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wouldn't like climb on just any random.
I don't know. You didn't specify.
I'm very self-sufficient.
Yes, you are. You are. Cadets start attempting the gauntlet. And you see that those at the bottom are cheering those at the top and warning them about the little bits and bobs that are going to attack them. And I love this. I love the team spirit. I love that, this is not only them learning, but they're also team building in like mortally dangerous activities.
And it's the first time we really see that aspect of this place because I feel like with the sparring ring and everything, it's been very one-on-one. It's been very competitive.
I mean, they're still cheering each other on, but I think it's a little bit different.
But it's different. Whereas like this is the first time that I guess they're also being graded as a group.
Yes.
So there's that. But it's the first time we really see like them rallying together and trying to help each other through it, and as it should be because they are a squad. Well, at the end of the day, once they are deployed, they're going to have to work together. And have each other's back,
exactly. So I like that they're starting to kind of build that team spirit. When it becomes Violet's turn to attempt the gauntlet, we get another round of important world building facts. This time it's about the different types of dragons.
Yes, her calming technique. So good.
I know.
I love it.
And I giggle every time I read it, but Orly goes, are you studying?
Yeah. She's like, seriously now? But it's what works for Violet. And again, she's going to do it her way. She's going to find her way around things.
And we as the reader, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But again, like my brain can't retain all the information she spews. I feel like I need to like tag the moments of like, okay, this is the history bit. This is the dragon bit. So I could go back and reference it when I need the info.
Well, so, okay. Now that you're mentioning tagging, this is a tabbing. now that you're mentioning tabbing, this is something that's really big in the online book community.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people recommend is not to tab on your first read. Mm-hmm. Because you're just learning about the world and you're just learning about the story. And then once you go back on your reread, then you kind of have that capacity to determine, okay, this is foreshadowing or this is, what's worth tabbing, basically. So I wouldn't feel too bad. But also, like I said, what were we talking about the other week? We were talking about... Oh, yeah. The other week when we were talking about the pre-chapter blurbs, and I was saying, pay attention to when it's...
Who's saying
what and whether it's authorized, unauthorized. And you're like, I don't know if I'm going to remember everything. Doesn't matter.
No, I know. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, she's doing her calming technique, and then Orly actually helps her. Mm-hmm.
She's cheering her on, giving her tips.
Yeah, and then Orly
falls to her death. So this is, I think, something that's a little bit humbling about this whole experience and the Riders Quadrant overall. Mm-hmm. It's that Orly was super well trained. She was super strong. She was built to be a rider. Mm-hmm. But what tripped her up was actually seeing the dragon flying into the veil or onto the presentation canyon or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's what startled her, and that's what made her fall to her death. Mm-hmm. So no matter how well prepared you are, maybe she was overconfident, maybe she was, who knows. But that was her ultimate downfall. So
and like right away, like the first thing I thought, I was like, oh my God, the survivor's guilt that Violet is going to feel. Yeah. Especially because we're coming off Orly just was helping her or hyping her up or whatever. Yeah. And like a second later, she falls to her death. And it's just like, my heart. Yeah. But it's something I think they also have to just unfortunately get used to.
Yeah, kind of like what Xaden says a little bit later in the chapter.
It's just like part of it.
Yeah.
So it just sucks. Like, it just sucks.
It does suck. Especially because, they were so close physically when it happened.
That too, yeah. Like, that's going to replay in her mind, like, forever,
Well, I mean, yes and no. Because she does say, I think when she went to burn her stuff, that she replayed that scene over and over, and she knows that there was nothing she could have done.
Oh, for sure. But it's just something that stays with you.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the scene changes, and we're at formation.
Yeah.
They're reading out the names of the dead. Mm-hmm. And I'm pouting. Violet sheds a single tear for Orly.
Yeah. So, actually, total side note.
Okay. I'm so afraid when you come up with these total side notes.
Why? No, this one's is just because I was complaining about sections and squads and stuff.
Yes.
And how I just found it complicated and hard to understand. Yeah. And reading this part, because in the death roll, they read it, I realized why I don't understand it. She writes it backwards than what I think she should. So she writes it as first squad, claw section, fourth wing. But to me, fourth wing is the top. You start with the umbrella and you work your way down to the section. I understand what you're saying. So it's written backwards. And I think she did it wrong. That's all.
Oh, hot take.
So total side note. But when I read that, I was like, that's why my brain can't understand, because it's not in the order that makes sense to my brain.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Well, this scene is super short, and Dan and Violet are performing the rite of burning Orly's stuff because, like I just mentioned, Violet feels a sense of responsibility to Orly because she's the last person she saw.
Yeah.
And there's a mixture here of feeling inadequate because the bag is so heavy, but Orly carried it no problem, yet she died and Violet is still alive. Mm-hmm. But then also of personal satisfaction because a couple months ago, Violet wouldn't have had the strength to carry the pack.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting juxtaposition of the feelings that she's having. And I think especially in this chapter, Violet, we're really getting a sense of her mixed emotions and the warring feelings within her of does she belong here or does she not?
Yeah, for sure. We also learn in that passage that the parents had the option to come and retrieve the body or not, and they opted not to.
Yeah.
Which, like...
Oof.
And again, like, why are all the parents so cold-hearted? Like, I guess for them it's almost like an embarrassment that she didn't survive because they have riders and stuff, but it's just like, it's still your kid.
I know. But you said it yourself, I think it was in episode 1, this society just has such a different relationship to death. And you also hypothesize that you're not worth anything until you're a rider.
I know.
So maybe.
I know.
Maybe
but
there's
it's
that.
Still hard to face, I guess.
Yeah. So after Violet burns Orly's things, she looks out onto the gauntlet and she says it looks like it's waiting for its next victim, but it won't be me.
Yes.
And I'm like, like punching the air, go Violet. Like she has, like she has this moment of confidence in saying, okay, like I'm going to do this. But then she has to start with the self-doubt again. Yeah. And her inner monologue is just so real. Yeah. I think it's so realistic for you to have these thoughts that jump from one end of the pendulum to the other. Yeah. And I appreciate that.
I love that,
so much. Because, in other books that we've read, let's use ACOTAR as an example. Feyre, when Farrah's in a bad place, she's in a bad place. And when she's in a good place, she's in a good place. You rarely see her swinging so dramatically.
Okay, yeah.
Unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
So I just think and I think Farrah's a great character. I think she's realistic in other ways. And maybe this is just a representation of different types of people.
Yeah, true.
I'm not going to make pronouncements on everybody on Earth's interior monologue. But I just found maybe I relate more with the wavering.
Yeah. Of
I got
could do this, but then you have the intrusive thought of like, what if you can't? Yeah. No, I totally understand that and could relate to that as well. I have another side note thing that but this is just I don't know. All the lights are called mage lights.
Yes.
And in ACOTAR, all the lights are fey lights.
Yes.
Why don't they just have normal lights? Why do we have magic lights?
They don't have electricity.
Why can't they use fire?
Oh,
Like, I feel like in my head, every medieval castle has fire and it's all these magic lights. But
this is magic, so you would want a magical source of renewable energy? I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe it's more stable, more safe.
Okay.
I don't know.
I just didn't know it was a thing, and now both series have it.
Well, Crescent City has first light, so it's even different.
There you go.
It's even
so yeah. It's a new convention, I guess, for me. So I was like, what? Why? Anyway, doesn't actually matter. Just crossed my mind.
Whatever, it crossed your mind. It matters. It's a thought you had. We validate.
Yeah. Moving
along. So now the plot thickens. There was a casual mention when Violet was staring out at the gauntlet that there were three dragons landing. And it turns out...
Oh, I didn't draw that
together.
Really? Yeah, that makes sense now.
Okay. Well, now you know that the three riders were Bodhi. Love that name, by the way. Garrick and Zayden. And did you notice?
Oh, she felt it. She felt him arriving.
We got some scalp prickling.
Yes, we did. Yeah, I notice it all the time now.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible not to.
Yeah.
So I love that even though she senses kind of fear, she's so tough and is like, I know that you're here. So she's a little bag of contradictions, our Violet. She is feeling one way, exhibiting another way.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
fear and attraction, very, very closely linked.
Yes, definitely. But he's the one that says, I know that you're here, no?
No, she says, I know you know that I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Because of his shadows.
I know that. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. That
yeah.
makes sense. Okay.
This scene, I have to say, is the most tension-filled interaction from the whole book so far. I think it's more than the sparring scene.
Interesting.
Because the sparring scene, there's a lot of tension because they are physically one on top of the other. Yeah. This one has a lot of tension because it's emotionally.
Yeah.
Like, not vulnerable, but there's a lot, it's emotionally charged.
For sure. I mean, he starts with like his regular kind of banter.
Which is so good. It's so good.
Yeah, his banter's great. But he sees that she's like off.
Yeah.
And then he like, without like fully being like, oh my God, are you okay? What's wrong with you? Like, he is saying like, oh my God, are you okay? What's wrong
Yeah.
with you? In his way. And I
Yeah.
was just like, oh.
Well, the little exchange about whether he's going to kill her, like, love it. But then when she storms off and he catches her wrist.
I know. And gently.
Absolutely.
Gently.
I mean, he didn't really
been...
get her consent for it, but like.
No, I know. But it was done in a right way, I guess. I literally wrote in my notes, I forget to write notes when Xaden enters the chat. So, anyway.
Yeah. He then kind of forces her to explain how she's feeling, and it's in an ominous way, but obviously he cares. Otherwise, he wouldn't be sitting there kind of asking for it constantly. And right on cue, right when she's mentioning how ominous his look is, whatever, she mentions how good he smells. She cannot help herself. Every single interaction, she has to have some sort of flirtatious mention about him. Whether it's his forearms, his face, his smell.
I know.
There's always something.
I know.
And when he remains calm in the face of her freak out, this is equal parts amazing because, you know, both people cannot be freaking out. Somebody has to remain calm. It's also so frustrating because it's like, why aren't you expressing the appropriate level of response to my emotions? Like sometimes when I'm feeling emotional, I want you to also
feel that way.
Not necessarily feel that way, but kind of don't just sit there and take it. Like give me something back. Otherwise I feel crazy. There needs to be something to bounce off of. Like I'm not going to talk to the wall.
Yeah.
If I wanted no response, I talk to the wall.
That makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. I like that he stayed calm in the face of her freaking out because it just felt like a strong like support, I guess.
But that's because when you get upset, you can rationally explain your feelings and have a conversation. When I get upset, I have an emotional meltdown and want to burn the house down.
Which is okay too.
I mean, it is the way it is, and there's really nothing I can do about it. But Violet reveals after this prodding from Xaden that she's afraid of the gauntlet, and she's frustrated that she likely won't be able to make it up. And he's like, I see. It's like, come on, Xaden.
Yeah. I think he's still... Like, I have hopes that he will open up more in the future. Like, I think he's still at a point where, like, he is keeping that mask up because he doesn't know how to act around her. Though he does care, and he does, obviously. But he's still, like, having that internal battle of, how do I deal with this girl? Like, why do I feel all these ways about her?
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to, like, emote it yet or deal with it or process it. So I think that's like why he's still a little bit reserved in keeping that mask, which I think will change in the future, but we'll see.
I hope it'll change in the future.
I hope so.
So she tells him, you know, he goes, I see. Or actually, I think he just says, I see. And then she says, no, you don't. You're probably celebrating because I'll fall to my death and you won't have to go through the trouble of killing me. And then he says, killing you wouldn't be any trouble, Violence. It's leaving you alive that seems to cause the majority of my trouble. Xaden Ryerson.
No, I know. Well, there you go. He lifted the mask for that one. I know. She also at one point says, and it wasn't meant to be, I don't think, in a sexual way, but she says he could do anything to me in here and no one would be the wiser.
Oh, okay, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, well.
When she said, I thought you were going to mention when she asks what her chances are.
Oh, yeah.
And he takes it as,
no, I love that. But no, it's just like she's talking about like, she's like, again, it's that like fear, but it's like, was that fear or was that
something
you're
else.
Thinking about something else? Like, I kind of love how they keep towing that line.
That line. Okay, I've got a rant.
Go for it. I'm here for it.
Okay. Obviously, this is a book. And obviously, we're only getting Violet's perspective. But she doesn't stop to think for 1 second about how hard it must have been for him to get to this point. Because at one point in her inner monologue, she's saying how he wouldn't understand her struggles because he's a wing leader. And it's as if the fact that he's a wing leader exempts him from the struggles because he would be so good at everything that he would naturally become wing leader, or that he would have achieved this position because everything came so easily. And I just think that this is another example of her naivety. Because just because he achieved something remarkable doesn't mean it was easy for him to achieve.
That's fair.
And especially the fact that he's a marked one, he's Fen Ryerson's son, so he's the son of the rebellion leader, essentially. Not essentially, he is. This adds more challenges that are stacked against him.
For sure.
So the fact that he became a wing leader, I just think it's really naive for her to think like, oh, he's a wing leader, so of course like this all came so easy. I think it's a little bit like she's having a pity party and she's not really thinking about, for someone who, you know, we've already like I love Violet and we've already established that she's a very sensitive and caring person. Here I think that she just kind of got a bit blinded by her own insecurity.
Yeah, that's true.
End of rant.
I mean, she's very focused on her own struggles, maybe to a fault.
Yeah.
To like not be able to see a little bit what's going on around her. Yeah, that makes sense.
And he calls her out for having the pity party and about wanting to run away to the scribe quadrant. And we learn something very interesting. The shadows hear everything.
I know, which is like crazy. So my question though, I'm like, okay, do the shadows hear literally everything and he knows literally everything? Or is he keeping tabs on Violet specifically?
I can't tell you, but but I want to know, do you think that regardless of the answer, do you think this is creepy, cool? What are your thoughts?
It sounds exhausting. Like I can't imagine just like constantly having all that information and knowing everything. Like I think one of the worst superpowers would be to read minds. Like I don't want to know what other people are thinking and doing. Like it just seems like really overwhelming. That is my reaction to it. But if he is keeping tabs on Violet, I don't think it's creepy. There, in a lot of cases, I probably would think it's creepy, but
because he's so hot that you don't think he's creepy. Double standard.
Called out. My God, no, because she is supposed to be his enemy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's crazy to keep tabs on her.
Fair enough.
I think it probably started as that, and then he realized, like, which also makes sense as, like, how he knew Dane and her were a thing, like, right away. Anyway.
Well, no, he knows that their parents were close, or are close.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So, okay, this whole exchange happens, and Xaden is taunting her, making fun of her, calls her out for her self-pity. And I think that it's really interesting, you kind of mentioned this earlier, how you mentioned this in our bonus episode.
Oh, okay.
He does this clearly to spur her on. So it's like he's noticed that she's motivated by proving people wrong. And so what he's doing is making obviously incorrect statements about her to rile her up.
Exactly.
And he does this to prove to her how strong and capable he thinks she is.
Yeah.
Words cannot describe how much I love this man.
Yeah. It's his way of helping her.
Yeah.
Because he's figured out this way of
But
helping
it's in a
her,
way
and
that's
it's
not
like,
infantilizing.
I know.
It's giving her the courage and autonomy and strength and
like, so here he is helping her again. And we actually kind of skipped over Dane. There was a moment with Dane after the gauntlet.
yeah, I choose to ignore this man.
But I have to draw this comparison is like Xaden is helping her and Dane, what he chooses to say is like, I should have been there. Like, dude, do something.
So I heard this on another podcast or somewhere.
really?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But an observation people have made is that Dane stands in front of Violet and Xaden stands beside her.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say behind for some reason, but
Maybe that's what
like
it is. But I'm pretty sure it's
pushing her
beside. It in the sense that, you know, Dane wants to protect her by bearing the brunt of whatever. And Xaden is okay just having her beside him to fight her own battles, knowing that she's got someone, you know, on her side.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that too. That is great. Exactly. Just Dane constantly pisses me off. I'm glad you're finally reaching your bleh phase.
Well, I mean, I reached this bleh phase,
I know.
you know, a long time ago. It's just I had to pretend. Well, not pretend, but
I
I had to adequately...
You were being honest about your first impression.
Yes, exactly. Well, I had to pretend that... How do I put this? I had to put myself back in my shoes of having felt that way.
Exactly. Being honest about where your head was at during your first time reading it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the last thing I wrote is just like he uses Violet as a scale for decency, which again, I'm talking about Xaden. Xaden uses Violet. And again, it's just like a testament to like how good she is of a person. And Xaden's like, I don't know how to deal with this, and I should be better, question mark, like, you know, like, it's just so interesting
Yeah.
to see their development.
And this exchange kind of ends with him telling her that the right way isn't the only way. Figure it out.
Yes.
And he turns and he walks away. He for sure knows that she's going to be stewing on this phrase and the frustration of him. This is the second time that he says something provocative and then walks away and leaves her being like, sitting like a fish with her mouth open. Is that the expression? Whatever.
Well, whatever.
She's sitting there and you know that it happens to anybody. When someone says something particularly pointy and you're left with those thoughts, you stew on it and you think about it and you maybe change your behavior because of it. So the fact that he tells her the right way isn't the only way, figure it out. She's annoyed, so it's going to stay stuck in her head like a little earworm. She's going to do something about it.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
as we know, she does.
She does. Well, he also knows she's smart enough to do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
she will figure it out. So.
Yeah.
And that is the end of chapter 10.
So are you ready to do some awards?
Let's do some awards. So my first award for most romantic. Shadows wrap around me, and I swear I feel a caress along the side of my cheek. So, though he is still not fully admitting, his shadows are caressing her cheek.
But are they sentient?
Well, he controls them, no?
We'll find out. I don't know.
Anyway,
I do not know.
I liked that little moment. So
I didn't have a favorite most romantic moment, but the entire exchange after Violet burns orally stuff, the banter is just so good. I just love it. Particularly when she asks him, look, are you going to kill me or not? The anticipation is starting to annoy the fuck out of me. And
that's romantic.
yeah, it's just good banter.
It is good banter. And then funniest, did you have one for that?
Yeah, but my funniest line is like funny cheesy, not funny funny.
I mean, there's a lot of funny cheesy in this book, let's be honest. I said, that's the oddest way I've ever been hit on.
Okay, so you like that line, eh? I have, so if you start to fall, reach out and grab a rope. It'll cost you 30 seconds, but death costs you more. It's just kind of like I can picture Sawyer being so self-satisfied with that line.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was a clever line. Yeah. And it's just like, no, it was just cheesy.
It was just cheesy. Spicy?
Yeah, I have one.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go first.
Okay. His fingertips on my pulse make it skitter. So just Xaden touching her, she like can't handle it. And I was like, the tension.
Yeah. Mine is killing you won't be any trouble, violence. It's leaving you alive. That seems to cause the majority of my trouble. And it's just, what trouble, Xaden?
I know. Ugh.
And the nickname.
I know. I love the nickname. I love that he calls her violence.
Me too.
I love it.
Me too.
And I know you said some people don't, but works for me.
Works for me too.
Okay, so chapter 11.
Chapter 11.
It is time to face the gauntlet, and Violet has yet to complete it. Dane tries to get her to leave one last time, but Violet has a plan. Using clever and roundabout ways, she makes it up the gauntlet, securing her place at the presentations. Violet! So good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk briefly about the pre-chapter blurb. So this comes from Major Rorley's Guide to Appeasing the Gods, 2nd edition. Either I never read this properly or I've never seen this person's name before. Anyway.
Okay.
It is a grave offense against Malik to keep the belongings of a dead loved one. They belong in the beyond with the god of death and the departed. In the absence of a proper temple, any fire will do. He who does not burn for Malik will be burned by Malik. Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I found that interesting because both Rhiannon and Violet have said earlier in the book that they sometimes keep things of the dead.
Yeah, I had written the exact same thing.
Yeah.
There are a lot of theories on the internet about why you are encouraged or bidden to burn the items of dead people, and we will talk about that when the related information is revealed to us. Okay. But Yeah, I mean, I think what it was that when the Book of Brennan was gifted to Violet, Rhiannon, to make her feel better or like to make her feel safe, said, "Oh, like we do that too. Don't worry."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I just found it interesting because like it's like, well, this is like an act of rebellion and against your god or one of your gods, and like
Exactly.
it just seems like a bold choice to be making. But
Yeah. So I have a feeling I'm going to be saying this quite a bit going forward, but I loved this chapter.
yeah,
I loved
it
this
was a
chapter.
great chapter.
Yeah.
It was a great chapter.
I feel like this is really when the book starts to ramp up and Violet's amazingness is put on display.
Yeah. We see her shine again through her own way of doing things, using her smarts, and like that's why we love her.
Yeah.
So the chapter starts during gauntlet practice.
Yes.
It's like the final practice before doing the real thing. And Violet has yet to complete the thing.
Due to her height.
Due to her height. Yeah. Which, okay, how tall is she? Is it ever said?
No.
I was just like, because I do get it. And like I said before, like, I feel it. I'm short too. But like, has there never been a short rider before? Like, are they like models? They have to be above like 5'9" or something? Like, I
think she's unusually short.
So she's like under 5 feet?
I think so.
I'm very curious to know if that like information has been
If
canonly-
anybody knows, please
Yeah.
DM us.
Yeah.
Send us an email.
We need to know.
Yeah. Because like I said, I've read this book going on 3 times and I don't think I've seen anywhere that specifies how tall she is.
Yeah. Just curious.
Yeah.
And she's like kind of still like she has a seed of doubt in her at this moment.
Yeah. I say that this is where resilient Violet makes an appearance again because she says that basically this is her last chance to potentially run away to become a scribe. And she thinks to herself that there are 2 reasons why she shouldn't. One is that there's no guarantee that her mother won't find out. Just because Professor Markham would keep quiet doesn't mean the other instructors would. But then the second reason, and do I love this? She says, if I hide, I'll never know if I'm good enough to make it here.
Yeah.
And while I might not survive if I stay, I'm not sure I could live with myself if I leave. Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. It's like, yep. Which just makes you root for her so much more. You're just like, you could do it, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And I just love this constant juxtaposition that she's got all of these mixed emotions. And I mean, really, it's not that mixed because she keeps actively making the decision to stay. And I love that.
Yeah. And then she says like Dane can't even look at her.
Yeah, so basically in the next you're talking about in the next scene.
Yeah,
so they're in the formation, the death roll is being called, and we actually, I'm sure you picked up on this, but we get another reminder that as the school year progresses, things are getting more and more dangerous, that it's not just first years who are dying off.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Second years are also
still not safe despite having made it this far, which is like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. So this is when Dane is dismissing everyone and he kind of like skips over her. Like, what did you think? What did you think about that?
Well, it's just like, I just felt like he was just being like a little baby. Like, I understand this is the thing that he was fearing most. He doesn't want her to do the gauntlet because he doesn't think she could survive it. And he thinks she's like going to her death. So he like can't even look at her. But it's just like, you knew this moment was coming. And
no, he didn't, because he thought that he could either guilt her, manipulate her, bully her into leaving.
True. But what I was going to say is, why didn't he take the opportunity to try to help her through it?
Because his name is not Xaden Ryerson.
And there you have it, folks. No, I know.
Okay, so just a quick thing to mention. As the rest of Fourth Wing is wishing everyone luck, we meet Heaton, who is non-binary. So we're getting another glimpse into... Hold on. Talia says I swallowed too loud. So we're getting another glimpse at Rebecca Yaros's subtle inclusion of a diverse set of characters. A lot of people who are part of, let's say, the LGBTQ plus community will have issue when there is a queer character because their queerness is the entire embodiment of their character. So their storyline or their character traits or whatever is going to revolve around that rather than them as a human being. So I think that here Rebecca Yarros does a really good job generally across the board with all her diversity to just mention it, just to say like, yeah, this is the kind of person that exists in our world, but doesn't make that a pivotal part of who they are.
Yeah, I noticed that too because you had mentioned it with like one of the other characters earlier on. So like I really noticed it here because the only hint towards it is this character is referred to as they. And that is it.
Yep.
There's no
not a big deal
made about it. It's just like they refer to someone as they.
And there isn't even a conversation like, I prefer the pronouns they, them, or whatever. It's just
accepted and stated and moved on. And I like that too. I was like, oh, like there's another little nugget of representation and done in a very tasteful way. And yeah, very cool.
Yeah. The other character that I mentioned, it was Orally with her ADD.
Oh, it was Orally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Also, as costume designer, we get a little bit more detailed about the uniforms. I don't know if you picked up on the patches.
Yeah, the patches. That's my next note. Yeah. So the patches represent different awards and stuff, but they also are supposed to be wearing patches that represent their signet powers.
Yep.
Which Xaden doesn't wear, which I love, but also...
But are you not curious as to why? No, you just love it.
No, I just figured he wants to keep it a secret. He doesn't want to...
Because like, he's too cool.
No, he just doesn't want people to know what it is, which is very strategic. Because Violet is actually using these patches to her advantage and studying her peers.
Yes.
As a strategy. So it totally just made sense to me that Xaden didn't want people to know. But yeah, I thought that was very clever of her to like be studying them and be like, okay, this is their power, so this is how I could defeat them. Because she's still just keeping all that bank of knowledge in her head, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I think on Heaton's arm is also evidence or awards of whatever weapons they're adept at.
Oh, okay, cool. Or wasn't there one for like the fastest gauntlet time or something?
Yeah, so you do get awards for, yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
Anyway, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And also interesting, that Xaden's like, I'm not going to do that.
Secretive.
Yeah.
So then we get this little conversation with Rhiannon and Trina. Yeah. So Rhiannon whispers from my side, he seems kind of pissed at you. I glance up over Trina's shoulders as the breeze whips the braid I've woven like a crown. It's working a few of Trina's ringlet curls. I didn't pick up on this. Violet braided Trina's hair. That's so cute. Oh, I never picked up on that. Okay, sorry.
Wait. Yeah, no, I didn't get that either. That's funny.
It's working a few of Trina's ringlets loose too. He wants something I can't give him. Her eyebrows rise. I roll my eyes. Not like that. I wouldn't care if it was like that. She replies under her breath, he's hot. He's got the whole boy next door who can still kick your ass vibe going for him. I find a smile because she's right. He so does.
Yeah, I know. I
don't know how
Rhiannon thinks Dane's hot too.
No, that's... No,
that's Rhiannon.
It's not Trina?
No, it's Rhiannon that says it.
My reading comprehension sucks.
I think.
No, I think you're right.
I think it was Rhiannon. But it made me laugh because like, again, it's like girls at school just like giggling over the boys and like also makes you like understand partially why Violet...
Parsley.
Did I say parsley? Oh my God. Partially.
I love calling you out because the stuff that comes out of your mouth is just gold.
Apparently I just can't speak.
No, you can. Come on, you can. You just grace us with these little joyful nuggets every now and then.
So partially why Violet is attracted to Dane.
Yeah.
Like obviously they had their friendship and that's a huge part of it, but it's also like
because he's physically attractive. Yeah. So they're talking about how many cadets are left, and shy little Trina is finally coming out of her shell. Mm-hmm. And mean bully Luca goes, stop letting fear leach into your voice. Mm-hmm. If the dragons think you're a coward, you'll be nothing but a name tomorrow. She says, Riddick narrates, inducing more fear. And Riddick is
the best.
The comic relief we need.
I know.
And so obviously everyone's really nervous, and I love how they're almost using gallows humor to kind of get through it. Mm-hmm. And of course, freaking Dane has to come in and be so annoying. I could just picture his dumb little face when he comes up, beside Violet and whispers, change your mind.
And he takes her hand too.
Maybe I blocked that out.
Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure he takes her hand too, but yeah, and he says, change your mind. I'm over it.
I know, me too. This is the exact moment where her confidence does not need his undermining at all. Like, he needs to stop and pick his timing better, because after that he goes I don't know if I can watch. And she goes, then close your eyes. Boom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Violet.
Yeah.
This boy is just making everything about him.
Yes.
And I was going to make a spoiler for Silver Flames, and you haven't even read it yet, so forget it. But then she takes it up a notch. Emerald, anyone? I used to take it up a notch. No? Never watched Emerald Lagasse?
No.
He's one of the first chefs. Not one of the first chefs, but he had a show on the Food Network, and that's how he would he would always go bam, take it up a notch. Whenever he was cooking. Okay. Anyway, whatever.
That's funny.
Nerdy. So he asks her what changed between now and Parapet, and she looks at him and she goes, me. Double boom.
Yes, Violet.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
Which I loved so much, because at the beginning, Dane was like, this place really changes you. Blah,
yeah,
blah,
and
blah,
now,
blah.
and I told you to remember that line,
I'm
right?
gonna put it in your face, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I also find this circle or whatever that they've been running is just all we've seen of Dane is him trying to convince Violet to leave. And it's just you're uninteresting.
Yeah, it's actually almost doing him and as a character a disservice.
Yeah.
Because he's just been boiled down to being the guy that puts the sticks in her wheels.
That is all he is.
Yeah.
And whatever, I'm sure he has some sort of personality, but we haven't
seen it.
We haven't seen it. So it's just ugh. But yeah, good for Violet.
Yeah.
Me. I've changed.
What a line.
So good.
Yeah.
So now Violet is running the gauntlet, and we are all holding our breath. Can she make it? And she proves that her brain is the solution to everything.
Yeah. I just wrote that basically this is an argument for a well-rounded education.
Yes. No, and you've mentioned that before. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny because, I was about to say all these schools, but, Hogwarts is it's well-rounded education, but, pigeonholes people into, categories. And then again, here in Basgaiath, they're oh, if you're this kind of person, this is where you belong. And it's just we need to stop boxing people.
Yeah.
We need to accept well-roundedness. But yeah, she's super clever, and she uses a rope to get past one part, and then she uses knives to throw herself up the wooden wall and finally scale it, which she had never done before, and it works.
Yeah. So remember in episode 1, when I said, remember the name Amber Mavis.
Oh, I remembered.
This is Dane's close friend.
Yes. Yeah.
And she's also a wing leader, and she
Yeah.
accuses Violet of cheating by this technique of using the rope to climb. So basically what she had done with the rope is she used the rope to climb the chimney, as leverage, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then with the dagger, she used it to embed it into the rock to propel herself up. So essentially, Amber claims that those two workarounds was cheating. And Xaden, all the while Violet is getting accused of cheating by Amber Mavis, Xaden has the nerve to look bored.
Yeah.
He could not care less.
Yeah.
And now one of my favorite interactions ever, definitely so far, but one of my favorite interactions ever is he gives her the space to defend herself. Mm-hmm. This is the example I was saying before about how Dane goes in front of her, Xaden is beside her. He is, he doesn't come to her aid she's some damsel in distress. He allows her to explain her rationale. Yeah. All the while, even when Amber Mavis is calling her a cheater and listing all the reasons why she should be disqualified, once again, one of my favorite things about Xaden Ryerson is his gaze never leaves Violet's. Why do we love this so much? I don't know.
His stare is just magical.
I know.
No, I know. And then the whole, so she's listing off the rules and stuff, and Violet is drawing the comparisons between Dane and her, how much they love rules.
Yeah, no wonder they're so close. They're both obsessed with the codex.
Still not cluing in that oh, maybe they were more than just friends.
But I mean, she does emphasize the close friends, so she must have
maybe it's the hint of suspicion. But yeah, anyway, it's just funny, like rule lovers. But then
Rule lovers unite.
But then Violet takes the rules and like
Shoves it in her face. Yeah.
Because she finds a loophole, basically.
Yeah.
And was in the right. So
I know.
there you
She
go.
perfectly explains that she actually didn't break the rules. And when Amber goes, you think like a scribe. Violet's like, I know.
Yeah.
And like I just said before, this is the perk of a well-rounded education.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she couldn't physically reach the top of the chimney. Well, that's okay.
Because she found a way to do it.
I found a way to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I did it
love
within
that.
the rules. So either write better rules
Yeah.
or shut your mouth.
I did have like a fleeting thought though, is like part of Amber's rage fueled by jealousy. Like she knows that Dane, I mean, I don't know what their history is, Amber and Dane, but like she knows that Dane then.
friends.
No, I know, but
Oh, like why? If they're still together or not together
we
or
don't
whatever.
know how
Yeah, okay, I
how
hear
it
what you're saying,
ended.
yeah.
So I was like, oh, is she a little bit jealous of Violet, like because she is such good friends with Dane?
We're going to hear a little pitter patter.
Yeah, little Frank. That's okay. Yeah, I was just like,
Yeah. And that's the end of
that's the
chapter
end.
11. Okay, awards.
Awards. So starting again with romantic, I couldn't find anything like truly just like romance. So I went with more like kindness, which seems to be like a theme in this. But the general camaraderie and allyship of like them all cheering each other on.
Yeah.
And like Violet defending Trina and just like there's just such warmth within their squad and I love it.
Yeah, I really like that too. And like we were saying with chapter 10, it's the team building element is really starting to show in the squad overall.
Yeah.
My most romantic line also isn't traditionally romantic, but I'm going to sound so like nerdy and Pollyanna, but this line is actually one of the most important romances I think you need to have, and it's with yourself.
Oh yeah, no, that's totally. Absolutely.
I loved how Violet handled Dane's undermining of her and her ability and her confidence. And it's when she I shake my head, any more than you could leave Kath and run to the scribes yourself. That's different. His hand squeezes mine, and I can feel the tension in his fingers, his arm. I'm a rider. Well, maybe I am too. I whisper as light appears ahead. I didn't believe it before, not when I couldn't leave because my mother wouldn't let me, but now I have a choice and I choose to stay.
Applause. For
Yeah.
Violet.
To me, like that gives me chills. I
Yeah.
love it. In the last few chapters, we've been talking about her waffling, her kind of mixed emotions, and she's chosen. Like she's made her decision, and I love that she chose herself. I love that she chose to believe in herself in the face of, like we said, Dane not really ever believing in her.
Yeah, I 100%.
I can really harp on about this, like on and on and on.
100%. So the funny award.
Yeah.
When Violet says he wants something I can't give him, and it's misconstrued.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
That's pretty good. I have, as they exit the formation and on their way to the gauntlet, nervous I asked knowing we're about to be called next. For you, she asked not at all. We've got this. Oh, I meant for the history test tomorrow. There's nothing going on today to panic about.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
So,
I love that like type of humor. I also like enjoy silly humor in the face of like really awful situations.
Yeah.
So I could appreciate that.
Yeah.
So the spice.
Yeah.
His eyes flare, and I don't miss the hint of a smirk in the a hint of a smirk on that infuriatingly decadent mouth of his. It should be against the codex to look that good and be so ruthless.
Yep. I have the same line.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes. Any description of Zayden.
Yep.
I mean, I keep saying she's got it bad, but like
we
I've
do
got
too.
it. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that concludes chapter 11.
Amazing.
So I didn't write a synopsis.
Naughty, naughty.
I know, which is so sad because it was such a good chapter.
It was a good chapter. That's
but
on you.
That's on me. But basically, it's
Oh yeah, make one up on the fly. Let's go. Let's hear it.
I can't do it in a poetic way. Basically, it's presentation day, and Violet gets her first face-to-face with dragons, and not everyone survives the walk. Mm-hmm. So,
You can say that again.
yeah.
All right. So the pre-chapter blurb for chapter 12 is obviously about presentation day, and it's written by Colonel. I always...
Me too. That word messes me up every time.
Why is there an L?
Why is it spelled like colonel? I don't know.
But that's what it is in French. Saint Colonel.
Yeah, I know. Why didn't we change it?
I don't know. Okay, so Colonel. Colonel.
It's Colonel.
It's Colonel.
Yeah,
like a kernel of corn. Oh, yeah.
Like in Clue, yeah.
Our references are very different.
I love Clue. I'm obsessed with Clue.
Okay, Colonel Mustard's field guide. Colonel went in one ear and out my mouth. Whoops. Okay. Colonel Kaori's. Oh, boy. Okay. This comes from Colonel Kaori's Field Guide to Dragonkind. Why does it Field Guide to Dragonkind? Okay. Ooh.
Oof.
Presentation day is unlike any other. The air is ripe with possibilities and possibly the stench of sulfur from a dragon who has been offended. Never look a red in the eye, never back down from a green. If you show trepidation to a brown, well, just don't. So we get some useful insight about red, green, and brown dragons.
Yeah.
And again, I will say this is another chapter I absolutely love.
Yeah.
The banter is amazing. We get so many satisfying lines, particularly towards the end. And it's great. It's propelling us forward.
And it's what we've been waiting for this whole time. Like, this whole thing is supposed to be about dragon riding, and we finally meet the dragons.
Exactly. We're that much closer to bonding, which is threshing. Threshing is when you bond with your dragon. So anyway, overall, we're really getting in the thick of it.
Great. So at the beginning, we get like a little bit of insight. It says there is 169 cadets left. Which is like still a good amount, but
that means almost 70 have to die or not bond.
Yeah, okay. I would have led with not bond, but okay. Well, but yeah, because there's just over 100.
There are 100.
Oh, there are. Okay.
Well, we find out there's
101. But yeah, okay, there are 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand a bit more like the competitive nature of the school.
Yes.
Still like have trouble accepting the fact that murdering people is cool, but. Yeah. And then we find out that the squad placed 11th out of 36, which is pretty good.
Yeah,
like,
they're about a third, the top third.
Yeah, so
I think it's perfectly respectable.
Yeah. And then we also learned that dragons are average 25 feet tall, which I made a note of because we were discussing how short Violet is and stuff. But
yeah, so think of those nooks and crannies. How is she going to get up there?
Well, I'm curious to see. Anyway, assuming she bonds.
So when Violet is setting the scene and she's telling us about how her squad is 11th, she also lets us know, us personally, Myriam and Elyse.
Yes.
No, she tells the reader that it's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
The landscape is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And we learn the squad will walk in single file to present themselves to the dragons.
Yeah.
And that there should be ample distance between each cadet so as to avoid getting burned if a dragon decides to scorch a cadet. That is so grim.
I know.
That is terrible. I mean, apparently, if a dragon thinks you're unworthy, they just burn you to smithereens.
Yeah.
They, like, no big deal.
Like, ruthless.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's scary. But Violet says she's excited.
Yeah.
No?
I don't understand. I mean, I understand why. I think, you know what? I think it's because, first of all, she's on an adrenaline high from having finally succeeded at the gauntlet. And at the end of the day, like you just said, this is the whole point. They're going to become dragon riders, so it makes sense that she's excited to meet the dragons and see them in real life.
And she says it to Dane. So, like, as I read that, I was like, I swear if he bursts her bubble right now, I'm going to be so mad. Like, I was just, like, bracing myself. But, like, he doesn't really. So I was like, okay.
You see, I don't even mention Dane the Pain. I don't even talk about him.
I love how he's, like, dropped off the face of the earth in your notes.
I refuse to acknowledge his existence.
Yeah, I think I just get mad. So I'm like, Urgh.
Yeah. I've dropped the pretense of, like, liking him.
Yeah, that's funny.
Luca, who is one of our little kakas that we don't really like.
She's not nice.
Yeah, she reveals that there's a feathertail dragon that has been spotted during presentation. So part of me is like, how does she know?
Yeah.
Because you would assume everybody, anyway, whatever.
But I guess whispers or whatever.
Maybe. And Professor Kaori hasn't warned the cadets about it. So we don't know much about Feathertails other than the fact that they don't usually bond or that they haven't bonded. So it's weird that a Feathertail is present at presentation. But Garrick encourages the squad not to think too much about it. So we're like, okay, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so then they move along and basically what they have to do is like walk across the field and let the dragons like watch them or whatever.
Yeah, get a sense of who they are.
It's giving debutante. It's giving Bridgerton. Like they are presenting themselves to the queen and
although they are not in white.
No, I know. But it was just like I was like, oh, like I don't know what I expected presentation day to be. For some reason I pictured it more like the Hunger Games presentation day.
Oh, when
like,
they show off their skills.
So I was like, yeah, the dragon's gonna want to see like who am I bonding with? What kind of skills do you have? But no, they're just like walking and talking.
Well, but think about it. If you're stuck in someone's head.
Oh, I get that.
Like you want to make sure it's a nice place to be. Yeah,
I understand the talking part 100%. I just, because everything has been so physical and more challenging, I was expecting another sort of physical, combative maybe.
Yeah.
Like I thought like the sparring maybe was leading to this day. I don't know. I was just expecting something more.
Well, I think the sparring is more to prepare them for hand-to-hand combat off the dragons.
For sure.
And then the gauntlet is to prepare them for getting on and remaining on the dragons. And then, I mean, presentation, I guess if I think back to how I thought it would be, I really just thought they'd probably just be standing in a line.
Okay.
And then the dragons be the ones to kind of walk around and decide who they want. But whatever. The talking bit is really interesting because we can see through the chapter and the conversations that are being had, everyone's personalities are actually really coming out in a stark manner.
Yeah.
In the sense that, you know, Violet her compassionate side is showing because she's trying to relax everyone by asking them questions about topics that they're comfortable with. Teen and Tynan is a little shit. Luca is a jerk.
Yeah.
You know, Riddick is making jokes. Everyone is kind of showing who they are.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really interesting way to show that, you know, this other aspect that maybe dragons will prioritize, which is what's going on in someone's head.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they strongly say no eye contact.
Yes.
Which then comes up later.
Yeah.
So.
But I think it's more for Teen and Tynan because classic Teen and Tynan.
I love that you're like rolling with this name. It's so good.
Well, one of the two options is correct. So he wants to know what kind of breed they are, and we start to get a better idea of why this guy's friends with Jack Barlow because he seems to think that he's in control and that he can be the judge and he can pick the dragon because we know Jack said the same thing. Jack wanted the black dragon. So, you know, the fact that he's...
Yeah, you're totally right. I just didn't like see it that way. But yes, like that is what's wrong with them.
Well, the whole chapter, Teen and Tynan is like... now I'm going to laugh every time I say it, but Teen and Tynan... Every time he is talking about the dragons, it's what can he learn about them and how can he make a better decision and how can he choose who he's going to pursue.
And Jack was the same way because he wanted the big one and the mean one and the this. Yeah, no,
exactly.
Totally right.
So and it's just this arrogance.
Yeah.
That, well, whatever dragon I choose or I, you know, aim for is going to want me. It's like, give me a break.
Yeah, get over yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, so they start their walk, yes? And Violet is close to Rhiannon and close to Teen and Tynan.
Teen and Tynan is behind her and Rhiannon is in front.
Yeah, okay. So Violet notices Rhiannon is nervous and then she asks her about family to calm her down. And it's just the sweetest thing.
I know. And they kind of push back on the rule that first years can't communicate with the outside world because it'll reinforce the bonds.
Yeah.
And I love that Violet is like, no matter how much time goes by, like the bond with my sister is going to stay strong.
It's for life. Yeah. Which again, they're pushing back against rules, which like they've already touched on. And
and then Teen and Tynan makes a comment about how hot Mira is, and sassy Violet comes out. She goes, "Turn around." I make the spinning motion with my finger. Mira would eat you for breakfast.
Yes. I had like a full body shudder. I was just like, ugh.
I know. And you know what? We have absolutely zero description about Teen and Tynan.
Yeah.
But in my mind, he looks like a thumb. Like he's not attractive.
That's so funny. I guess you know what? I didn't even take the time to picture what he
Me
would
neither.
look like because I was just like, he is gross.
But have you ever watched
garbage
Fat
personality.
Albert? No, Fat Albert. Have you ever watched, what's that movie with Gwyneth Paltrow and Jack Black?
Shallow Hal.
Shallow Hal. Thank you. Have you ever seen Shallow Hal?
A long time ago. I don't remember.
Well, the premise of Shallow Hal is that Hal is shallow and he only cares about how people look, and he acts in a way to judge people based on only their appearance, and he's very arrogant about it. And then he's cursed with this curse.
Yeah, and he falls in love with like a bigger lady.
Yeah, because he only sees who people are on the inside. So I'm shallow halling Teenan Tynan, and I think he's heinous looking because he's terrible.
100%. Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. Shallow Hal him away.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, again, Violet brings up like, oh, Dane likes rules as they're chit-chatting, and then I'm like, girl, does he though?
Only when it's
Convenient for him. Yeah.
I feel like in all of this conversation with Rhiannon, there is another moment of vulnerability where Violet and Rhiannon's friendship grows stronger because Rhiannon expresses the fact that she was hurt that Violet didn't trust her with her plan.
Yeah.
And when Violet explains that she didn't want Rhiannon to be considered an accomplice, and Rhiannon says, you don't have to protect me, and Violet goes, I know, but it's just what friends do.
I know.
Welp.
I know. It was actually nice because I found finally, like, we've had little clips of them chatting, but this was like the first time we actually had a friendship conversation. We got to see like their friendship develop and how they are together as people, and it just made me love them so much more. I'm like, they're just the best friends ever. Like,
And then, but you know what? I actually respect Rhi as a character so much because she asks Violet if she has any other secrets, and Violet kind of evades the question. And Rhi is so cool about it. She's so respectful.
Yeah. Like,
and
she knows she's lying.
Yeah, and
but
she's a good
like,
friend. She
okay.
goes, if that wasn't skirting the question, how about this? Promise me that if you need help, you'll let me give it to you. And I think that that's such a wonderful way to handle a situation where she's not comfortable. You're aware that she's not comfortable sharing something with you, and you are meeting her where she's
You
at.
are respecting her boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. It's so good.
Go Rhi.
Go Rhiannon. The best. Anyway, so yeah, they make their deal, and then from across the way, they see the feather tail.
Yeah, and she's small.
Small.
Barely taller than Violet.
I know.
And she's golden.
I know. Which, like, made me so excited because my immediate thought, I'm like, oh my God, there's a small dragon. That is a dragon she can mount. Like, this is potentially, and no one knew it was going to mate that day.
Yep.
Did it hear about Violet and come running? Maybe.
Maybe.
And I loved it. And then also, it's gold, and the book is gold.
Oh,
So I
that's a
made
great
that
point. I
connection.
didn't really think about that. Again, I'm sure. I know for a fact this is very wrong. I've seen fan art and whatever.
Okay.
But when I picture the little golden dragon, I picture a giant golden snitch with legs. Because the golden snitch has wings.
Can somebody draw this for me, please?
I don't know, like, I picture it's like a mix of like a chickadee, like a chick, like a with a golden snitch and like Big Bird. That's what it is in my head.
Your imagination is wild. I love it. It's so dumb.
It's so wrong.
I love it.
It's so wrong. But like,
Oh my God. Okay.
sorry.
Oh, I love it. Oh, bless your brain.
Thank you so much.
Oh, anyway, so her squad mates also obviously notice the size of it and start making fun of Violet and start making fun of the dragon, which like
Teenan Tynan in particular.
Teenan Tynan, Luca also a little bit.
Yeah, but Teenan Tynan
But like,
more.
I was like, I thought this was rule number 1. Like, we know the dragons will eat you right up. Well, they won't eat you. I know they don't like the taste of humans. Blech. I like the idea of people being eaten.
Okay.
But they just like are insulting the dragons like right in front of their faces.
Yeah, they can understand them.
I was so stressed the whole time. I was like holding my breath. I'm like, someone's gonna get it. Someone's gonna get it. All of you need to stop talking. Someone's gonna get it. And like Violet has that stress too. Yeah. Just
So I completely agree with you. And on this reread, I feel like the squad can now be split into 3 categories. So you've got in category 1, those who are in awe of the dragons and who respect them. So you've got Riddick, Sawyer, Rhiannon. Sorry, I have a friend named Rhiannon. And Violet. Then in the middle, second category, you've got those who have disdain for the dragons and who think that they're the boss. And so there you have Tina Tynan and Luca and Jack Barlow, but he's not part of her squad. And then in the third category, you have that are just those who are just waffling / not confident / quiet, and that's Trina and Pryor.
Right.
Pryor, we've had little mentions of Pryor here and there.
They mentioned him more specifically. In
this. He gets a spotlight shown on him. Yeah, exactly. In this chapter, but he is mentioned, I think, with the gauntlet chapter.
Also, just he never makes decisions.
Exactly.
You're right. That's a great way to
categorize everyone.
Yeah. And then the next thing we get is the wyvern folklore.
Yeah. So Violet's attempt at diffusing the situation and calming everyone down is to talk about I call them wyverns. The audiobook, because there's wyverns in Throne of Glass, and the audiobook narrator says wyverns, but I've heard people call them wyverns.
Okay. I feel like I've heard someone say wyvern, which is why I said it.
So we've got Tina Tynan and we've got wyvern.
Oh no. Okay, we'll look that one up though, because I feel like it's going to come back.
Yeah.
But for this, like, I just kind of pictured a worm with wings. Like, is that right?
No.
It's not a serpent.
No.
Okay, why? Then what?
The difference between wyverns and dragons is the number of legs they've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of them is 4-legged and the other one is like a little worm.
That was your imagination. That's weird.
What is it?
I don't know. I think if they have the same appearance.
It's just serpent body.
But a dragon doesn't look like a serpent. It looks like a dragon.
I thought I had a serpent body for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know. I think of Mushu.
Yeah, but Mushu has 4 legs, so no. And Mushu has a serpent body.
Okay. Well, agree to disagree.
Okay. Anyway, so we get that folklore, which is kind of fun to like. I like folklore in general, so it's fun to see like their realm's version of folklore.
Yeah.
And then Pryor.
Hold on. Did you not pick up on the venin?
No.
Okay, so the venin is another type of creature, and the venin and the wyverns are briefly mentioned in the first chapter when they're in Violet's old room, and Mira is packing
the books and stuff.
Yeah, and she goes, "You can't take this book of folklore," and she calls them vermin.
Yeah,
but they're venin. Anyway, venin are another type of creature, not creature, but another type of creature who suck up the power from the earth. They don't get their power through a signet power,
right?
Through their dragon, they get their power from the earth. Like they're basically back in chapter 1, Violet says that it's a cautionary tale told to children about the dangers of magic and of wanting more than you can handle, basically.
Okay.
So she talks a little bit about that.
Okay.
Park that in the back of your mind.
Okay. And then Pryor gets roasted with his spotlight shine on him.
Yeah. And understandably, this shakes the squad, but Luca is such a jerk about it when she goes like, ugh, the smell.
Yeah, she's like, ugh, whatever. He never can make a decision anyway. Like, basically saying like, he deserved it.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. And I'm just like, girl.
You've got it coming for you.
You've got it coming. But I did find it interesting, like, Rhiannon yells, like, screams in reaction, which is, like, totally viable.
Yeah.
But, like, that was okay. Like, the dragons didn't see that as
that went right over my head. I didn't even think about that.
Weakness. Because in the first time we see the dragons, anyone who, like, runs away or, like,
running away and
out,
yelling is different.
I know, but, like, it's still a freak
an expression
of
fear.
freaking out and fear. So I was just like, oh, she yelled and nothing happened.
That's
which
interesting.
I thought was kind of interesting. But, yeah. Then, Luca is just being mean, and all the bullies are just being awful. And at this point, I was like,
somebody else has to die.
Yeah, somebody has to pay for this. But it's just like, I was getting annoyed because there are so many bullies and mean people in the Riders Quadrant, and they aren't the ones that are ever punished. It's the weak that are punished. And I'm like, okay, the dragons are just fostering this really negative environment, and I am not here for it. Like, I was getting mad. And I'm like, this is built, and the reason why it's this way is because of the dragons, and I'm not impressed with them right now. Okay. I know they would just kill me, but...
Okay, well, I will not have you disparaging the dragons.
I know, but, like,
I know what you're saying.
It's not a nice environment.
Yes, it's like not a vicious circle, but it's like a self-fulfilling circle where if you are getting rid of the weak, then the arrogant, mean ones remain, and then,
But it also, because, like, people think being strong is being tough, which is, like, in their interpretation of that is being
outwardly strong.
And stepping on other people, which is making them mean, which is making them bullies, which is, so it is this vicious circle.
But if you look at, let's say if you look at the rest of the squad, if you look at Sawyer, Rhiannon, and Riddick, let's forget Violet for a second, none of them,
they're good.
They're all good.
Yeah.
And
it's just everyone else that we've seen outside of this squad.
But maybe it's just, they're just there to kind of create that juxtaposition so that we love Violet's friends more than
we'll go
we
with
would.
that.
I don't know.
I'm sure there are nice people in the Riders quadrant.
Yeah.
But it's just, we've seen so much negative.
Yeah, okay. Argument. So the purpose of the dragons and the dragon riders is so the dragon's magic is what fuels the wards that protect Navarre. We learned that a few weeks ago. And basically, that is the dragon's sole priority, is survival.
To protect.
To protect the wards. And they only care about protecting the wards because it protects the Vale where the dragons live, which is where all the hatchlings are. So essentially, it's all like an instinct to protect their young.
Yeah.
Okay?
And no one's ever seen, like, a baby. Like, that's how protective they are. Yes,
Exactly. So if their only priority is survival, they don't care who you are as a person other than whether you've got the strength to help them achieve their goals. Because at the end of the day, they've talked about this before, they're going to talk about this again. The dragons are in charge. Like, the humans have a semblance of power, but they don't actually have power. It's the dragons that have power. So maybe that's kind of a reasoning.
Yeah,
because
probably.
As we can see, there's other cadets who are strong physically, but also kind. So what they care about more is the strong physically.
I get it. I just mean I like it.
But listen, Luca, strong physically, weak character. She's flaky. I was trying to think of a more intelligent word, but she's flaky, right? Like, she's very quick to throw someone under the bus or whatever. So the dragons are like, that's a liability, kind of like how you think that Jack Barlow's complete unhingedness is a liability. And then Pryor's inability to stick to a decision is also dangerous.
Yes, I understand. I understand.
Very defensive.
Because I insulted dragons. So that happens, and then Violet kind of has a moment, and she's like, holy shit, we're so insignificant.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't know, I think it just, like, heightens the reality of this world. You're just like, oh my god, like, yes, like, they can just be plucked off and no one will even bat an eye, and this is the world that she's living in right now. And then a dragon starts sniffing her.
Two dragons
start sniffing her. And, like, it was so exciting, and my heart kind of stopped, and it was just, like, a really great scene. But yeah, two dragons approach her and start sniffing her, and everyone's like, what is happening? She's like, what is happening? And she turns around and she's, like, staring into their eye, which they have been told, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So already I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? But then she remembers that never back down from a green. So she stands her ground and she politely talks to them and respects them. So in turn, they respect her back, which I thought was very cool.
Absolutely. We get a sense that even though these dragons are potentially violent and ruthless, they also could be caring and have a sense of humor, because the first thing that they noticed was that her hands were bloody.
Yeah.
They were kind of like with their snouts kind of pointing out that her hands were bloody. And then they can smell Tine?
Oh, yeah.
Mira's dragon?
Mira's dragon.
Yeah.
They can smell the armor made of the scales. Yeah.
And
it's Mira's dragon is a green dragon, which is why the green dragons are the one who, like, sought her out or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they chuckled, and I think when she said, like, please don't tell anybody or whatever, she could get the sense that they were communicating amongst themselves. And then, she just retreats respectfully and moseys on for the rest of the presentation. And I just thought it was a really sweet interaction because, again, these dragons are scary and they're powerful and they can kill you in an instant. But there's more to them than that.
Yeah.
They're well-rounded, full creatures.
Yeah. Which, again, only just makes me more excited to get to know them as, like, actual characters.
Yeah.
More.
It'll come.
Oh, I know.
So obviously Rhiannon has seen some of this.
Yeah.
So Violet explains about the vest, and this is another little secret that they have, and it's a way to bond them together. She's like, yeah, this vest, blah, blah, blah. Please don't tell anyone. No problem.
Yeah. Super cute. And then after that, Luca
meets her fate at last.
Yeah, she gets roasted.
Yeah.
And like, thank goodness, because I didn't like her.
I know. I wrote in my notes, when Luca insolently, and then I put in brackets, I'm having so much fun coming up with adjectives, remarks that she thought the dragons were going to eat Violet. And then because of the fact that she was insulting Violet, who's super respectful to the two dragons, they just burn her to ash, or she just gets burned to ash. I'm like, satisfaction at its finest. I was so pleased that this girl got what was her due. Yeah. And I realized that I'm getting bloodthirsty.
I know. So like, I started off reading the book and I'm like, oh my God, it's so horrible. All these people die and all these people are getting like killed and whatever. And now I'm like, haha, she comes down to her.
Oh, how things have changed.
Yeah. But you know, it's all in good fun. It's a fantasy book. So here we go.
It's not real.
Yeah. And then their squad is down to 6, and that's the end of the chapter.
Yep.
So award time?
Award time.
Okay. So I found it actually really hard to pick awards for this chapter because it's like just a walk and they're talking. Like there's not too much interaction. I don't know. But for the romance, I chose more like an act of kindness thing. And that's when Violet turns the conversation to family to keep Rhiannon calm.
Yeah,
I loved
really
that. Touching.
Yeah, that was really touching. I also didn't really have a romantic line. I just kind of noted the whole interaction with the green dragons as super romantic, because the fact that they were curious about her injury, the respect Violet showed, you know, them, as well as the fact that the vest came from her sister who wanted to keep her safe, and she highlights that her sister wanted to keep her safe. I think that means something to the dragons, whose entire reason for being is to keep their hatchling safe. So I think that they could relate in that moment to the safety.
Like that comparison, but I like that a lot.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
That's
sweet. Funny. Guess the dragons.
Yep.
Guess the dragons think she's insufferable too.
Yep. I was waiting for this chapter just to highlight that line because I loved it so much. It's like the last little zinger when something satisfying happens, and then just
like Riddick comes in, like, take that, Luca, and And then I didn't put spice because I really couldn't, I don't know, find.
Okay, so my spiciest line is like spicy, sassy, spicy. And it's after Teen and Tynan is being super annoying.
Yeah.
You need to stop laughing when I say that because it throws me off.
I'm going to smile every time I say
it. And it's when Rhiannon says, hopefully one of them will decide you don't get to make it to threshing. Rhiannon says, her voice quiet so it barely reaches me. And it's just like, Rhiannon has been such a nice character so far.
And now she's like muttering under her breath. Basically,
yeah, something
I
really.
Hope you die.
Exactly. Something super sassy.
Yeah, horrible.
All right. So for next week, please read chapters 13, 14, and 15. Things are going to get real exciting.
Oh, I mean, oh my God. I feel like every chunk has been like next level, next level, next level. So hopefully we just keep going.
Chapter 16 is great. So I'm really excited for us to get to there, but we'll just have to wait another week.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate this podcast and leave a review. It'll help other people find us. You can follow us on Instagram at BookBoundPod and on TikTok at Book Bound Besties. Please tag us in your reaction videos if you're reading along with us, or if anything we say strikes a nerve, or pretty much for any reason. It's really fun for us to feel like we're kind of building a community and finding people who love books and love these books as much as we do. I think it's...
Yeah, that was like the whole point of this
not just talking to the void.
So
yeah, exactly. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, as always, you can email us at bookboundpod@gmail.com. I've been saying it wrong. I'm going to say this for the next couple episodes just to highlight. Our email is bookboundpod@gmail.com. If you've emailed bookboundbesties@gmail.com, I'm really sorry to say nobody is receiving that email. So you can...
Our bad.
Yeah. Send the email back to us.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Let's get to reading.